Summer's heating up in Calgary with a Morgan Frost extension.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I am your host, Jessica Belmosto of Locked On Flames and the Win Column. Today, we're going to talk all about Morgan Frost's extension, his expectations, and Connor Zary remaining the only RFA for the Flames that remains unsigned. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. Let's jump into this. 2 years at $4.375 million. 8-team no trade clause no trade list in the second year. Sure, why not? Honestly, I feel like we just hand these things out like candy on Halloween, but at that point, that's fine. It's 8 teams. It's just a quarter of the league. It's fine. And it obviously makes him harder to flip potentially at next year's deadline. But this is good. I know people were kind of like gawking at the $4 million, and it's like, yeah, you're not wrong, but then we also have to remember the cap increasing, and it's all relative, and it's going to take some time, I think, to get fully adjusted to the new like inflated salaries for some of these players. And if you don't remember, Morgan Frost was acquired prior to the trade deadline with Joel Farabee from the Philadelphia Flyers in exchange for Jacob Pelletier and Andrei Kuzmenko. Both of those players are on new teams now. Kuzmenko was traded at the deadline to LA, and then Pelletier just signed a 3-year extension with a 3-year deal with the Tampa Bay Lightning. So congratulations to them. So there are some expectations for Morgan Frost, as well as Joel Farabee. And we'll talk about Joel Farabee a little bit later this summer and just kind of dive into his career and what his potential is in Calgary this year. But Morgan Frost had 3 goals and 9 assists in 32 games with the Flames. That obviously is not what you want to see. However, something we talk about a lot on this podcast and have since I started hosting it 5.5 years ago is the fact that there are outside circumstances that obviously can play a factor into someone's on-ice performance. Now, I'm not saying that is the full reasoning or a full excuse, obviously, but, being traded to a team across the continent mid-season, thankfully with your best friend, I'm sure that is stressful. I'm sure that was, a lot to handle and a lot to figure out and work through the details. So, I can't blame him as someone who also has outside factors that impacts their workday, like every other human being. I can't knock him for that, but you're obviously hoping you're begging for improvement this next season, because that's not really acceptable. 12 points over 32 games is just abysmal. And I think that Frost was aware. He said, I played some of my best hockey, but then it just kind of fell off. And I'll lump Farabee in with this too. He said that he knows he sucked this season. So the self-awareness is good. Like, I got to give them credit for that. But I think for Frost, the biggest thing was the change of scenery. That was something that I feel like we have been hearing for the past at least 3 or 4 years is Morgan Frost is going to get traded at the deadline. Morgan Frost is going to be traded this summer, blah, blah, blah. And it finally happened. And I think that one of the biggest things for him is coming into a system and an organization where he is fully supported. I think his time with the Flyers organization was very clearly up. He just kind of got thrown under the bus a few times, and coming to a welcoming and supportive environment like the Flames with Craig Conroy as your general manager, he sends out the private jet to come pick you up. He wants you to feel welcomed and supported and appreciated. And I think that's why players choose to stay, and why, culture is a big part of the Flames. And when you leave a tough situation, you aren't just going to erase your bad habits overnight. They will be coached out of you. You will let them go, and you can find better opportunities in this new situation. And I think next season we will see Frost take a step forward in the right direction compared to where he spent last season. I think it is unfair to judge him off of what we saw last year. You need more. You obviously need more from him, but what you got was not a fair sample size. I will give him the benefit of the doubt with that. So hopefully, after a nice long off season, settled in, working out, enjoying himself, not living out of a suitcase, will do him some good. Coming up next, we are going to talk about Morgan Frost's expectation with the Flames and just what you should want with a price tag like that. Do you ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. I like Monarch Money because I can really pinpoint my spending habits, and I'm cutting back on ordering takeout at lunch, out for lunch at work, so I can save upwards of $100 a month. Having everything in one app just makes everything so easy to manage, and you're not flipping through multiple apps trying to keep things straight. Monarch Money has you covered. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That is monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off of your first year. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We're here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. And what are the expectations for individual players going into next season? What are organizational expectations? What do I expect of Craig Conroy or Ryan Huska? But what do I expect out of Morgan Frost? Well, I think the first thing that has to happen before I can fully establish anything is they need to do some thinning out of this roster. Okay? We need to make some trades. And I'm not just talking about Rasmus Andersson. You have to do something with all of these forwards. Conroy was talking about, coming in and stealing a job. And it's like, whose job are they going to steal? You know, pretty much every single roster spot is taken, and then some. But with Morgan Frost, I'm thinking you're looking at your second line center, based off of the depth chart as of July 2nd. You're probably going to have him with Sharangovich and Pospisil. Do I think that Sharangovich and Pospisil can play that high in the lineup? I think Sharangovich may be able to pull his weight there, but I don't think Pospisil will. However, this is just an idea. I would like to see, maybe instead of Pospisil, you have Connor Zary if you're not experimenting with him at center, or maybe you do Pospisil and Zary on the wings because they had pretty good chemistry when they've played together. And really, you're looking to do anything to help benefit Morgan Frost. And unfortunately, the Flames don't have any elite wingers that can really put some extra oomph and pad the stats. Think back to Elias Lindholm, Matthew Tkachuk, and Johnny Gaudreau on that top line back in 2021 and 22. Elias Lindholm was never putting up numbers like that. Gaudreau and Tkachuk were both consistent scorers with that elite shot and talent, and need I say more? So their offensive success helped Lindholm, and obviously Lindholm's ability at center, big help too. But the Flames don't really have. It's not that they don't have anyone like that. I guess too, you could put Coronado with him if you're looking to add some offense, right? I think that Coronado and Zary may be your best options there, but at the end of the day, you have to. I think that this roster is just going to be a bunch of lines in a blender, probably until mid-November, if I had to guess. But I think having Coronado's right shot would be ideal for that. But I'm not going to sit here. He's the only forward that shoots right. So we'll take it. But I think that you have to do this more strategically and chemistry wise. And if that means you have to take Coronado away from Kadri and Huberdeau, you figure it out. But we can talk more about roster construction as the summer continues. But what are my expectations for Morgan Frost? Well, his career high in goals is 19. For $4.375 million a year, I would like to see him scoring at least 15 plus goals. I would like to see him get closer to 19, if not set a new career high. Do I have that expectation considering this team struggles significantly with offense? No, I don't. Especially considering, how severely they struggled last season and it wasn't really addressed. And there's no room for them to really add someone. I'm not saying they would add Ehlers, but they would be a lot better with Ehlers. And again, you'd have to do some more trading because you have too many forwards. But I think, considering what they're working with, I feel like 20 goals would be an astronomical reach. I feel like that would be way too much. So I'm going to say 15 to 17 goals is probably a realistic expectation. obviously depending who's on his wing. I don't see a world where you're getting another 30 goal season or 28 goal season out of Jonathan Huberdeau next year. You're probably getting 30 goals out of Kadri. You need other players on this team to step up too. This isn't just about Morgan Frost showing up for his paycheck, because Igor Sharangovich makes $5 million a year. Joel Farabee makes $5 million a year. Blake Coleman, would still like to see him produce offensively. I know that he's still very productive on the ice, just not finding the back of the net. I need to see more out of Pospisil next season. Otherwise, I don't think the Flames re-sign him. I don't see him in the long-term picture, but everyone has to step up. Otherwise, you're going to be losing these games, 5-1, 4-1, 4-2, 3-0. Like we watched how significantly severely this team struggled scoring goals. So to put the expectation of Morgan Frost to carry the offense is unrealistic. I hope he's one of your, top 5 scorers, but if he's leading that, then something's wrong. It's going to be guys like Kadri, Zary, maybe more so Coronado, that should be that are likely to be in that top group. So if they're not there and Morgan Frost is, you have to do other things to evaluate the roster construction. And I feel like deep down, that is what the Flames need to prioritize. And like I said, we'll talk about that. Don't worry. But coming up next, we're going to talk about the only restricted free agent the Flames have yet to sign, Connor Zary. We've talked about him a lot this episode, and we have plenty more to say coming up next. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you're following me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Just Belmosto. Connor Zary. Okay, there was a report like 2 weeks ago, right before the draft. I don't remember who tweeted it. It was someone, I believe, from either Daily Faceoff or Elite Prospects, that said Connor Zary and his team haven't been in contact with Conroy in months, and there's been no ongoing conversations. And that was pretty much shot down. And if there is any validity to it, it's at that point, he could have just been in the woods, enjoying the first 2 months of his off season, recovering from this pretty significant injury that happened twice in a matter of 12 weeks. And that's the thing. We don't know where things stand with his injury and his recovery. I guess if I wasn't expected to be ready for the start of camp, I don't know if I'd be in a rush to sign a contract. I'd be more focused on trying to get better and prove to my team that this is the work I have put in this summer to make sure I'm good and why I'm worth X amount of dollars and term. But at the end of the day, he should also be hoping to sign a contract because he needs a job. I get why we aren't rushing things. I do. But at the same time, I would like to see this wrapped up by mid-July. I would love to have a bow on this in the Rasmus Andersson trade before August 1st. Before that. That would be ideal. However, with Zary, I don't think that it's going to be something that is drawn out. I just don't think we're going to hear anything until it's happening. We're not going to hear, oh, the two sides are talking. It's going to be very similar, I feel like, to the Morgan Frost situation. I think it was Elliot Friedman tweeted hearing Morgan Frost and Calgary are close to an agreement. Whatever. I feel like that's what it's going to be. And then 5 minutes later, you'll see the Flames tweet a graphic. I don't feel like we're going to get any sort of anticipatory lead up to it. Just because of how I don't know if private's the right word, because we've watched the Anderson stuff play out. But I think if Conroy can keep it in-house, he'll keep it in-house. And that's ultimately what's happening here, I would say. But for Zary, I think one of the biggest concerns is his injury history. He has been battling injuries ever since he was drafted and started his pro career. So back in 2021, he dealt with an ankle injury. And then he dealt with another lower body injury, kept him out a game. And then later it's actually 2 seasons in between. Sorry. So October 2021 to November 10th, he dealt with an ankle injury. November 23rd to 24th of 23, he had a lower body injury. He missed from March 4th, 2024 to March 21st, 2024 with an upper body injury. April 5th and 6th with an injury in 2024. So then January 9th to February 23rd, he was out with that first knee injury. Comes back for a month. And March 29th, and he suffers a season-ending injury that we don't know where it stands, other than the fact there was no fracture and it didn't require surgery. So, which is very good news. Do not get me wrong. However, re-injuring the same knee in that close proximity does concern me, as it would anyone. But he does have, I think, there is a lot of potential here. His rookie season, he played 63 games. He had 14 goals and 34 points. For a kid that was completely unexpectedly called up and stuck with the team for the entire season, just about, I think that's impressive. He was a blast to watch. And, this season he played 54 games and had 13 goals and 27 points. He has the ability to score. He has a gorgeous finishing touch with the net front presence. He is a great skater and someone that, if you can get him to shoot more, I think you're in good hands. But the Flames probably don't want to put all their eggs in one basket. And we're with the surplus of forwards that they have, I don't think that they are going to be looking to, I think it's pretty clear. They saw the 5-year deal with Sharon Govich, saw how that played out this year, and said, well, now they're RFAs. They're obviously Morgan Frost, Kevin Ball, Adam Klapka. They all signed shorter term deals. Except Kevin Ball. He doesn't count. He got a 6-year deal. But I think this next contract should be a 2-year prove-it deal. Or even 1 year. Personally, if you're giving Morgan Frost 2, I'm going into those negotiations saying I've proved myself to your team, so I also deserve 2 years, probably at around $3.25 million with the inflation. I'm just guessing. Or, yeah, I guess that's where I'd put it. If you can give Morgan Frost, who played 32 games with you and had minimal offense, you can give me 2 years. They might even try to push for 3. If I'm Conroy, I'm staying steady at 2. I want to see improvement. I want to see healthy seasons. And I get it. You can't control all of your injuries, if any. Like the Mikko Rantanen collision that caused his season-ending knee injury was a freak accident. It's not like he wasn't paying attention and collided with Rantanen. It's the opposite. That it's not like he went to do like a knee-on-knee hit to someone and ended up hurting himself worse than the person he was going to hit. There's a difference between avoidable injuries and Connor Zary's injuries. But I want to see him healthy. I want to see a full season out of him. So I would give him 2 years. And I think that's reasonable. What do you guys think? And that'll do it for me here on this episode of Locked On Flames. Thank you all so much for joining me. I hope you are having a good week, staying cool, enjoying your summer. Can't believe it's already July. We will be back at the rink for camp before we know it. Wow. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. Your Calgary Flames every day. I'll see you all tomorrow.